in the years that I've lived here, I've seen a lot of strides made in improving regional mass transit, in reducing congestion, and increasing bike lanes and bike share programs throughout the region. And I just want to, and also in terms of stream cleanup and green space, and I just wanted to know where my candidates stand on these issues.
Thank you. It is an excellent question, and I know that many Towson residents are engaged in that issue. I am very proud to have been honored by the Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, which is one of Baltimore County's leading environmental organizations, for my work in preserving green space. I have a wonderful relationship with NeighborSpace of Baltimore County, and we've worked to build 2 new parks at no taxpayer expense: Ridgely Manor Park along the Rockhaven Boulevard corridor and Adelaide Bentley Park in northeastern Towson. We have 2 other parks under construction in Towson. One is the Patriot Plaza, the Greening in downtown Towson, and Radeball Park just up the road. And there were a lot of you in this room that I worked with on that. That was a really tough process, and I want to thank you all for working on that. You're going to be very proud of that park very soon. So, you know, one of the things that attracts people to Towson is the consciousness we have for our environment. Again, I'm proud that we've downzoned so much land. We have open space zoning in a lot of the land, but the parks are definitely an asset. In terms of transportation, my professional background before I was elected was in transportation. I held senior positions at the federal and state governments dealing with transportation issues. I was chief of staff at the Maryland Department of Transportation when we started this Towson Circulator, and that is a project that I would definitely like to see implemented in Towson. We were able to obtain some planning money from Governor Hogan's administration. Unfortunately, the county executive blocked it. The county executive, who is now running around talking about what a transit advocate he is, blocked the circulator in downtown Towson. And look, I can respect him opposing the project on principle, or if he has some knowledge that I'm not aware of, but he didn't offer a solution. We don't have many more places in Towson where you can build more roads. You have to have more bike lanes, which we've done. You have to have better mobility through a circulator, and you have to pay attention to calming measures like in Stoneleigh and Annesley and in Rogers Forge. I'll conclude with this. I just sponsored a piece of legislation that's going to be on the ballot this November, which will take the Department of Public Works and add to its mission pedestrian and bicycle elements and transit where appropriate. It'll head to the voters, and that way when we have a new county executive, he or she can set a tone of being pro-transit where necessary and pro-transportation and pro-environment.
Certainly, bike lanes are something that we really need more of in Towson. But one thing that's most exciting, I think, is the Sixth Bridge Trail project. Yes. And there's the sign back there. I mean, I went to the county council meeting supporting that. The first stage is in effect. Where this should really go, and it's going to be a long-term project, is to connect Radeball Park to Overlook Park. Yeah. You have a lot of, and the beauty is, aside from the country club and having to get an easement from them, I mean, at some point there'll be some pressure point, there'll be some amount of money that can be, to make that happen, I think. The land's already there. And what is really possible is if you can cross over Loch Raven Boulevard, you connect into Herring Run, you could have a nationally acclaimed greenway, that cut through our neighborhoods and provided, really incredible resource, tied the city and county together. And I think that, that's one thing that I've been, really excited about, and if I were elected, I would make that a central mission of my service. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, because I think it's really poignant for all of us in the Towson area and the region. I'll start with the congestion issue. Councilman Marks mentioned a commitment from Governor Hogan. In fact, Governor O'Malley was governor. We had a commitment from the Secretary of Transportation, Jim Smith, to also commit money. And even at that time, the county executive was not willing to support a circulator or to even further the opportunity to create some sort of circulator, even though the Mass Transit Administration was very cooperative. I have this past session passed legislation that looks at what's called complete streets, which is how do you meet the needs of all the users, whether they are transit riders, drivers, pedestrians, or bicyclists. Because along every corridor, you're seeing these conflicts that we have to accommodate. And how do you actually work to make sure that you have safe passage for everybody, that if a person's in a wheelchair, he or she can get around safely, a pedestrian is not impacted by traffic itself. And I also had a bill that, while it didn't pass this year, that would have required the State Highway Administration to look at congestion involving pedestrians and bicyclists when it conflicts with curb cuts or entries into properties, the Starbucks bill. Because the challenge with the Starbucks is that you have what used to be a bank is now opening 2.5 hours earlier than what a bank would open, and where you have kids going to and from a middle school. Unfortunately, it didn't pass, but it's the same premise that we have to accommodate all of the users. I believe there's an imbalance and that we need to actually accelerate a different look at transit. Trade Point Atlantic is a booming economic hub and doesn't really have good transportation to get people there. Hunt Valley, you can take the light rail to Hunt Valley, but you still may have to walk a quarter of a mile or half a mile to get to your business. Well, that's not really accommodating the employers in economic development, nor is it accommodating the transportation needs. On the Greening and Greenway, I'm really honored to have been a founder of Neighbor Space of Baltimore County, an organization that's done tremendous work in trying to preserve spaces inside of the older communities, and worked, in fact, to convene a group with the Overbrook Park once the county decided to demolish 6 houses to see what can happen and what kind of planning process can unfold in order to accommodate not only the needs of that park space, but also to tie in with the 6 Bridges Trail. I've already mentioned before about funding of green areas. I've worked, unfortunately without success again, with people from the Green Towson Alliance on roadside trees, and how do we preserve roadside trees, and when they're taken down, require that they be replaced. A really big challenge in Baltimore County, because unfortunately the county has not been attentive to those losses. So there are, as worked as well on the Forest Conservation Act this year. So I'm committed to preserving trees and green space and working with the communities to find the right formula to make sure that we do have the areas that really create the vibrancy that we see in so many of our neighborhoods.
Folks, we got a miracle. We all agree about the organized green space and the passive green space, the 6 Bridge Trail. My childhood home was Montgomery County, Maryland. And the system that they have in Montgomery County, Maryland, is actually second to none. There were plenty of parks, there were trees, there were trails. It was beautiful. I love it. I am concerned about our overdevelopment, and I'm concerned about narrowing the roads. We really do need to look at that. But for the most part, look, we have a bipartisan table right here, right now. Everyone, I think, agrees. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jay. And I'll just close by this. I'll just give me a minute. Imagine 2021. A new Towson High School is done, and next to it we have a beautiful greenway along a stabilized herring run connecting Radel Ball Park and Overlook Park. That's what Eastern Towson can look like in 2021. Let's make it happen.